3-and-D players have become essential to team basketball success in today's spread out offense. Having complementary guys who can consistently knock down open shots and make defensive stops for championship contending teams. If it means paying them $20+ million a year in fear of losing them for nothing come free agency time, those teams mostly don't have a choice. Even from the 2000s, San Antonio and Phoenix had pieces in Bruce Bowen and Roger Bell, both super annoying to deal with, guarded superstars like the Kobe Bryants of the world, to nailing bombs in pivotal moments in big postseason games, while Shane Battier went on to have a long career, extremely useful for the 2012 and 13 two-time champion Heat. Former All-Star Ray Allen adapted to the 3-and-D role, hitting the most clutch jumper in finals history, while the 2020 Lakers built one of the most perfect championship core in the modern era, having the likes of Danny Green and KCP. Even when one struggled, the other delivered, being in the starting lineup together alongside two of the best players, earned the Lakers that title. But nowadays, guys who are just great shooters, most of whom the average looking white guys, the 3-and-no-D types, getting multiple year contracts, a quarter from $100 billion, slow and unathletic. Once they struggle, become unplayable, leaving a burden in the team's payroll. A lot of these contracts viewed as severely overpaid, overhyped, teams getting caught up in the moment, ending with regrets after seeing a few guys regress after they got paid. Those rosters don't have enough cap space to sign better players. While trying to contend for a championship, don't be shocked to see similar guys in the future not get the contract they wish for in the coming years. Starting with the most average name, all 3-and-no-D, Joe who's been a no-show Harris, now 31, in a slump since the 2021 playoffs. Nets fans fear Harris' best basketball behind him. The franchise gave Harris 4 years $75 million after a career best 14.5 points on 42% from deep, a massive financial commitment when Patty Mills only got 2 years $12 million, making the same contributions. Played well regular season, but an absolute travesty come the 2021 postseason. Started all 12 games, looked good the first 2 against the Bucks, but when the pressure came, melted badly, averaged a pathetic 7 points, 39 minutes played, 26.5% from the field, 8 of 33 from 3, a chance to give the Nets the momentum, super winnable game 3, 1 of 11 shooting. His team very easily could have been up 3-0. Brooklyn shorthanded game 5. Reasonable to believe the Nets wouldn't have won the game without Harris showing up. Durant needed 48. It was vet minimum Jeff Green who dropped 27 on 7 of 8 from 3, doing everything Harris failed to do. Game 6, a -25, destroyed by Chris Middleton's 38, a chance to redeem himself, the most important game of his career at home. The whole world knew Durant would draw all the attention, but Mr. Below Average Joe went 3 of 10, 10 points in 47 minutes, brick wide open shot after wide open shot, a golden chance to put his team up 3, final minute of OT when KD out of gas. Harris just needed that one shot, but literally shit the bed. Not built for these types of moments, brought nothing else to the table, even worse than Harrison Barnes' 2016 finals, intimidated by Drew Holiday, Middleton, and Giannis. Had he hit one of those timely threes in game 7, or even went 2 of 11 in game 3, the Brooklyn Nets more than likely would have been 2021 champions. Of course, the number 1 blame still injuries, but number 2 was absolutely Joe Harris' pathetic performance, ruined a historical dominant series by Durant, supposed to only miss several weeks with ankle injury last season after playing 14 games, but out for the year, a shell of himself ever since. Depended upon like a 4th and 5th option. If he's not hitting his shots, Nets have no chance going far, even if the team wasn't dysfunctional. Plays well in past regular season games without pressure, but in the 2019 Philly series and against Milwaukee second round when they were loaded pressure, Harris didn't have it when called upon. A 4-game stretch, going 3 of 24 this season from 3, paid till 2024, not looking good. Duncan Robinson of the Miami Heat, the perfect definition of all 3-and-no-D. The 28-year-old used to be the biggest hidden gem, from undrafted to full-time starter, even in the lineup for a team that made the finals. Signed 5 years, $90 million, 2021, rolled the bench since. Realistically, should have been more like 5 years, $30. Last season, numbers down to under 11 points, only 37 from deep, to 17 minutes now, 6 points a game, 36% from the field, ouch. Under 32 from behind the arc. Rotation players Matt Strus and Cody Martin proved to be more reliable, making fractions of Robinson. After securing the bag to laughing about it on his podcast, only thing that makes him relevant these days anyway, became super predictable over time, one-trick pony, doesn't add much to his game, already a huge success from not getting drafted, started college playing D3, but no more praise after getting all this money, constantly gets beat off the dribble even at 6'7", with the addition of Vic Oladipo and the more versatile Strus, both fearless. Robinson's confident look shot, hesitant, excelled when nobody else knew who he was, but once everybody saw his lack of D, Heat's front office shouldn't have been scared that other teams were gonna steal him away. Would have been better to just let him walk, now killing tons of cap space. 2020 Jay Crowder's help defense made up for a lot of Robinson's flaws. Can't dribble or create his own shot, fouls a lot, got plenty of DNPs for last postseason. Aside from game 1 versus Atlanta, shot 26 from 3, 34% overall, average under 4 points a game. Didn't even play game 7 versus Boston conference finals. For a $90 million player, finessing the franchise reminds everyone of the modern Ryan Anderson, but worse, the Heat front office simply got too ahead of themselves for their player development and Heat culture. First it was Hassan Whiteside to the Tyler Johnsons and James Johnsons of the world, now to Duncan Robinson, also playing alongside the better Tyler Hero. Every time the two had to share the floor together, defensive suicide for Miami. Went from shooting 45% from deep to 41 down to 37. Anything under 40% in that department makes him unplayable. If Robinson don't shoot well enough from 3 consistently, simply not an NBA level type player, now in trade discussions, hard for the Heat to get rid of a liability, making nearly $20 million each year till 2026, ouch. Davis Bertans, many already forgot he's still in the NBA, an absolute horrendous contract, part of that Porzingis trade, literally became a scrub after averaging 15.5 points his breakout season for the 2020 Wizards, shot over 42% from deep. To 2022, a laughable 5.6 points, under 34% from deep in just 14 minutes played. Washington rushed to give him 5 years $80 as a defensive liability. Bertans made a smart calculated decision to not play in the bubble. Talk about stop trying before even signing the contract, was nothing more than a below average player. A playoff liability beforehand, 3 years with San Antonio, only a 54 game sample size in 2020. Bertans only part of 20 of those wins. His sudden hot streak fooled the Wizards, the reason why San Antonio traded him in the first place as a cap dump to sign Marcus Morris didn't work out anyway, just because he wasn't shy of shooting 30 footers and making them, auditioning his best Steph Curry impressions, having nothing to lose on a bad team, having the green light, a few months work playing well for lifetime wealth, with defensive minded Jason Kidd coaching Dallas. Zero shot Bertans even gets quality minutes, never averaged more than 4.5 boards. A rhythm guy needs his looks and touches to be effective, too fragile to guard force, too slow for guards, no longer an elite shooter, and unmotivated, already had multiple ACL injuries in the past, makes him pretty useless now. Rewarding role player that can shoot well and only shoot, especially being unproven in the playoffs, a super slippery slope, one-dimensional guy, outside of shooting threes, does everything else extremely poor and below average, looking like a Ryan Anderson type ending. Buddy Hield will continue being in trade discussions, first Sacramento to now Indiana, 6'4", low IQ, can't play a lick of D, irritated, caught out of position a lot, makes head-scratching plays, forces the action, tries to do too much out of his strength, inconsistent, although a more gifted version of Joe Harris and Duncan, who can ISO from time to time only when Russ Westbrook struggled. Emotional Laker fans the only ones to truly believe Buddy better than Russ. Not the type of player to make a mediocre team all of a sudden contend, slightly overpaid, not as bad as the Duncans, Bertans, and Joe Harrises of the world. 21 mil this season, over 19 the next, agreed to 4 years 94 back in 2019, believing he had a chance to help the Kings franchise end their playoff drought, only to beef with Luke Walton, got benched and cried about it. Already a finished product at this point, will turn 30 before the end of the year. Not as young as many thought, anything above an $80 million deal his next contract will be regretful. Tim Hardaway Jr. Dallas made their successful run in 2022 without him. After returning, hasn't looked the same, not as impactful. when his shot's not falling, under 35 from 3 on 7.5 attempts, signed for 4 years 70 summer 2021. Not terrible, but not that great a deal. Easily better than all the other guys on this list, since he can actually create offense himself here and there and pull up with the hand of his face. At times, looks worse than teammate Reggie Bullock, who's not part of this list since his contract's only 3 years 30. Also not a great defender. When he's out there missing shots, doesn't add much value on the court. Evan Fournier, overpaid on a defense first team to a guy who can't play any D. 4 years 73 mil when it wasn't necessary for the Knicks to spend this money on a streaky guy like this, loading up their cap room. Regressed this season, 20 minutes a game, 33% from 3, looking slower on his drives, although he's got more game than Joe Harris and Duncan. That's little to no value for the Knicks. Knicks fans sick to the stomach. He gets minutes over some of their young cores like Grimes and Quickly. A net negative when his shot's not falling, can hit 4 trays one night, then totally disappear the next. A little bit overpaid, 18 mil on the year and a team option for 2025. Not the worst contract in the world, but the Marcus Smarts and OG Anunoby's making less money, way more impactful than Fournier. Gary Trent Jr., not so great a defender, cooked in the playoffs, looked overwhelmed worse Philly, gambles for steals and gets a lot of them at times, likely never viewed to be a two-way guy, although surrounded by great wing defenders with Toronto. Good for his role, but not as valuable as someone like a MacLeod Bridges who can stay in front of their man. A player option the next year, soon to be 24-year-old, still has time to expand. Next time Trent Jr. gets a big contract, team will need to be reminded he's owning strictly buckets, nothing else. Paying Trent Jr. upwards to 20 mil a year, very dangerous to the cap. Luke Kennard, 4 years 64, Montrezl Harrell couldn't believe the team gave him all that. The 26-year-old anywhere between 15 to 28 minutes a game makes a ton of sense given the Clippers loaded. Kennard led the league in 3-point shooting a season ago, nearly 45% on 6 attempts. Many consider the 6'5" shooting guard to be properly paid. Doesn't play more because of his lack of D, getting 15 mil each of the next 3 seasons, reasonable fair pay if he continues to produce and knock down shots, but anything above 18 mil a year a stretch. Devontae Graham, only 6'1", well undersized, barely cracks the Pels rotation, and looking like the 12th man. Jose Alvarado and the younger guys gets more minutes. Graham shouldn't be making above 8 figures if he's 11 in minutes played on the team. New Orleans thrive on intensity and high energy. After trading for CJ, Graham's ball handling not as needed. Would be the likely Pelican to get traded if so for a defensive upgrade. Teams haunt him every time on the floor, and New Orleans suffers if another small guard pair with him, kind of a ball stopper. Even looking at the move from David Griffin, 4 years 47 million, might even be a little too much. Landry Shamet, 4 years for the Suns, Booker's backup, the second round curse from the bubble Clippers to KD's big toe, then being part of 64-win Phoenix only to get destroyed by Luka. Well below average on D, makes boneheaded plays, no consistent role. When he does finally have a breakout stretch and ball out before his next contract, teams can't afford to bid too highly. Being undersized at 6'4" and a thin frame, not gonna give you much on D. Thanks so much for watching this video. With the Joe Harris's, Duncan Robinsons and Davis Bertans of the world super overpaid, the others on this list nowhere near as bad a contract. Is this finally the end of the big contract, all 3 and no D era? It's an absolute travesty. Joe Harris making more than Domantas Sabonis, DeJounte Murray, and even Larry Marketing. Will teams finally be smart enough to know when to not pull the trigger and just let guys like Bertans walk in free agency? Let me know your thoughts. I love all of you. See you next time.